Anne Renwick. I wanted to introduce you to Raj, my friend, who helped me make sure that my character in A Trace of Copper was accurately reflected as an Indian woman, a Bengali woman, in 1885. So much as we could manage.
Yeah. So my full name is Rajendrani Mukhopadhyay, but I go by Raj. So I understood the importance of names. So I really helped Anne figure out what would the name of the character be, because I know in my culture a name means a lot, and the name had to be right for this character.
And the name I had was all wrong. I was informed it was completely wrong.
It was not Bengali enough.
Well, I had gone online and, the baby names in the Bengali section, and I had picked something because as a reader, so many of us are readers, I don't know about you, but when I'm reading, I have to sort of hear what I'm seeing in my head. So what you read is not necessarily how it sounds, and what it sounds is not necessarily how you see it. So we went back and forth like 10, 15 emails trying to get out a proper name.
Apologies for the dogs.
Maybe you want to go sit with her. So back and forth. We were going to go with your mom's name.
We were going to go with my mom's name. My mom's name was Keika, which is the call of a peacock, but then...
I was all about the peacock theme. I was working that in.
Yeah, but then...
It didn't look right written.
Yeah, but then when we went with Piyali, it just made sense.
Piyali worked.
We changed
the last name, too.
Yes, we did. And it was a lot of emails back and forth, but as I said, in my culture, name means a lot. And so, personally, my name means the Queen of Queens, even though I never use Rajendrani in its totality. The fact I'm named Queen of Queens means a lot to me, and so that was important to me. Wardrobe was a huge thing.
It was. I put it on all wrong. All right, let's stay. So I wanted to have a strong woman. She was going to be spoiler alert here. She was going to be the physician. She was going to be the secret agent type coming in. So she was going to have the weapon. So I'm thinking pants, right? If you've got to chase down the bad guys, you need pants.
But not just any old pants.
So I said to Raj, what pants? Well, she could wear the tunic and the pants. What's this called? The
salwar kameez.
Right. So I'm researching this, and I'm ready to change my wardrobe because that looks very comfortable. And then we get to talking, and it was your husband was over, and I mentioned this, and you both went. I said, what? You're consulting. What have I done wrong?
So the salwar kameez was introduced by the Muslims, and a Hindu Bengali woman would not wear salwar kameez until very recently.
You said your grandfather would have had a fit.
My grandfather would have had a fit. My mother was not allowed to wear salwar kameezes until she actually left home and she made her own executive decisions. So
she had to wear a sari?
Sari all the time.
That was the only option.
Sorry, yeah.
Right.
After she hit puberty, but salwar kameezes were like for little girls, but once you hit puberty and you're getting to the marrying stage, it was the sari.
Right. So we were discussing this, and
you can't kick ass in a
It's
sari.
like, how are you going to run down a street in Wales?
Right.
Because I've dropped us in England, Wales, no less. How is she going to run down a muddy street with a gun and chase down the bad guy? I'm like, this isn't going to go well.
Right.
So what we came up with was, or I said you, because I'm like, what do we do?
I forget what I came up with.
With your dress, the
right, my my wedding dress. So basically it was a ghagra choli, so it's basically a blouse and a long skirt, and that would fit perfectly Victorian times because a big heavy long skirt totally fits it with Victorian times.
Not unraveling and falling to the ground.
Right, exactly. And then you have the blouse, and then you usually have a wrap around it, and it just fit with the Victorian times. That I was like, that's what I wore to my wedding.
Right.
That's what women wear a lot to their weddings now in the 21st century. Right. So
let's just the corset.
Right. So let's just blend that in.
Steampunk. Right.
So, yeah.
And when we were talking about that, I did ask you about the bare midriff, and you had a funny story on that one. Do you remember?
My dad.
You asked your dad, what's the difference between
Madonna and an Indian woman with a bare midriff, and apparently that was not the right question to ask. So I still don't know the answer to that question, and I still hold my dad to an answer to that one. But it's okay if it's a bare midriff with some cloth thrown over it.
Cloth makes all the difference, even if it's see-through.
If it's see-through.
That's what I ran into too, but again, couldn't find an answer.
Right.
Let's see, textiles were huge. I was ready to hang curtains. There were so many beautiful textiles. I had my character, she's Kantha. She's sewing Kantha. At first I had her mother having worked on saris, but then you're like, no, it takes more than one person. And then there was another hour of me watching saris being made. Like, yeah.
And
no,
then
one
Gantha
person
is like
can't do
our
that.
equivalent of quilts, making quilts. And so Gantha stitch is a really important art form in Bengal. And I told Anne that if she could incorporate the Gantha artwork into her work, it would make it even more authentic because it's really important to Bengali women. And I know, as a matter of fact, that when I was a baby, that all the things, well, we didn't have diapers back then, but all the things I lay on were all Gantha stitch, where this special stitching that it's basically our equivalent of quilting, and it's a really important art form.
There are a lot of pretty ones in there.
Yeah.
Definitely. Let's see what else.
And then language, how was she?
Oh, language. Right.
That involved including my father, which was
We
pretty
only
tricky.
ended up with one. I ended up with more Welsh. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And that's its
The
own
holy
story.
well.
Oh
What's
my
the
goodness.
Bengali well?
Right. So
word
in a
for
holy well. Welsh, we had a name, and there's all the holy wells and all the traditions throughout the British Isles. So it's like, well, is their equivalent? So I'm, again, online. That's all I've got, right? And I'm finding holy wells sort of, kind of, and they're not quite right. And you didn't have the term for it.
I did not know what the word was.
Do you remember
for
what
it?
it was?
No, I don't. And then I had to ask my father.
Who was in?
Kuwait.
They were asking where you grew up, by the way.
Oh, really?
My readers wanted to know where you grew up.
I grew up in Kuwait. So I was born in India. I was born in Kolkata, but at the age of 3 months, I moved to Kuwait. I did live in India for 2 years as a teenager when Saddam invaded Kuwait and that little wrinkle in history. But I grew up in Kuwait. But we can talk forever about being a child of a third culture.
Yeah.
But, I did not know the word for a holy well in Bengali. And it turns out that it was okay I did not know because my father, who is fluent in Sanskrit and Bengali, was thrown for a tailspin when I asked him this question because there is no
Right.
word per se for holy well, which was interesting that the Welsh had an easy word for, like they had a word that was
They had
there.
a well, it's sort of like a wishing well.
Yeah, but
Which was the funny thing, is I called it like Saren's well, and apparently the way I had Google translated it was Saren is doing well. I'm like, well, oops. So we fixed that, or the Welsh people helped me
but there was
fix that.
no equivalent word, and my dad had to go and dig back
It was
into
like 2 weeks later, and then an email appeared.
Right, it took him like a while to figure
He
out.
went
what the
to
word
India
is.
to visit relatives,
and
it triggered something.
It triggered something, and then he was like, "This is the word." I was like, "But nobody uses that in spoken Bengali." And he was like, "Yes, nobody uses this word because we don't use that word," and so we had to work around that. And so that was
made for some interesting things. Yeah.
And then the food and things like
We
that.
worked in a little bit. It was banana and coconut. It was like trying to pick something that was going to make it really hard for her mom to have to produce in
banana leaves,
1885 in London. Banana leaves.
Yep.
Yeah, we can get that now.
Yeah.
Not then.
I have to say it was one of the most fun projects I worked on.
Yeah, we had a good time on that. I was so relieved because the other thing with the clothing, it is a romance, so the clothing comes off.
Right.
And I took it off wrong.
Right.
Right.
Right. There's some things that need.
Thing to be unbuttoned, and I had to
First
draw a string where
unhooked.
there wasn't one, and it was it's a hook, and no,
Sometimes you can't-
slide it down, you don't pull it off.
Right,
that
and
kind of
sometimes you
thing.
need two hands instead of one hand. This involved me going back into my closet, putting the stuff on. I'm like,
Oh, really?
I can't do this in one hand.
We should have pulled that out. I should have made you drag them. Her wedding gown is just gorgeous. The stitching is amazing and so heavy too.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot of
That
fun.
that mostly covers things. I'm sure they were forgetting something, but
Yeah, there were some other little things, but
so why was Piyali Bengali? Because Raj is Bengali and she could help me consult. And what better way to get it accurate? I think that covers it.